games in sports and day-to-day living. Sit back, relax, and join the show with 9-year NBA vet and Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer Erick Strickland and two-time Nebraska Football National Champion Clester Jonathan.
Once again, an illustrious poet of Ice Cube. Once again, it's on. It's WTF. Another Tuesday night, 8 to 9, right here is where you can find us on X or 10, whatever you want to call it. Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. Hello 951 is where we can also be found, as well as YouTube yep. and on the radio, 93.7 The Ticket. If we got Royals on, the right Royals now. Are so we straight streaming today. We can get a little rowdy, so it's all good. No, but nonetheless, man, Cless, it's another day, man. It's good to be in the building with you once again. We've got a great guest today that's going to be joining us shortly. But, man, how you doing today, man? How's your day going? What's been going on with you? You're staying busy? You're active? What's happening?
Strick, I'm happy to be here. I wish sometimes people could be tuned into the off the air talks, because I'm crying right now. I'm trying to calm myself.
Keep your composure.
I'm keeping my composure, but we get to do that on air together. Show people how we flow. Show people how we just sit in the living room, and sometimes these subjects just come up.
Yeah,
and we just reminisce. So
we've got great history too, bro. We go way back, man. We cut from the same cloth. Clester and I, we've got a long history together. Been longtime friends. He is now my brother and has always been my brother. So it's always a pleasure to have you. This has been a beautiful thing that we've been able to have the 1-2 connection come back to life.
Absolutely. Let's maybe touch on what you mentioned right as we started our guest. Okay, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go. Not yet. Okay, not yet. I want to say a few things before we bring him in.
Yeah.
Okay. This guy really needs no introduction, but I have to say a few things about him. Very influential when it comes to student athletes that are at the University of Nebraska. At a time of your life when you're very impressionable, and you got that guy who is taking care of you when you're injured, or even when you're not injured, he's just there, saying stuff to you, keeping your spirits up. A comedian, doctor, lawyer, nurse, all those things mixed into one. Inventor.
Yeah,
we're gonna touch on that a little bit.
Yep.
Confidant of Coach Tom Osborne, their relationship. We're gonna maybe hit on that a little bit, and then maybe just kind of talk about some of the characters that he was able to come across in his long, illustrious Nebraska career. So without further ado, Harrison, we're gonna go ahead and bring in the one, the only, Doak Ostergaard. Here he is.
Doak, what's happening, man?
Fellas, how are you?
Good. Doak and I also have some great history as well. He is the one that introduced me to Nintendo 64. I mean, I used to sit at Doak's house. I was at Nebraska. And look, there was no doubt about it. I was coming to the University of Nebraska. Guys like Clester here, Terrence Badger. I used to spend a lot of time in the dorms with him, just hanging out down here as if I was already a Husker. And then you had Doak, that was one of the ones that not only did you had the opportunity to just hang and spend time with him and get to know him personally, but on top of that, he also made sure these ankles were well taken care of when they needed to be. Doak Ostergaard, what's going on?
Strick, the way I tell that story is I recruited you. Forget Lynn Mitchum and anybody else. I just recruited it.
That's how it goes. Yes, sir, Doak. We're looking forward to getting into a Clester.
So, Doak, you have let's start here. You have a very unique name. And why don't you touch on the story behind your name? Because a lot of people know about the Doak Walker Award. So let's talk about that and where you come from. Let's introduce the people to who you are, and then your transition to how you came to Nebraska.
All right. First,
as a trainer.
I gotta give a little perspective here, though. Do you know how odd this feels to see you two on the air? Like, you guys look like you really play the part here. You could be on ESPN as far as I know, but knowing from you guys when you were just teenagers to this is pretty impressive, and you do a good job. So,
well, we're truly grateful, and it's truly a blessing that 93.7 The Ticket saw fit for us to be able to put this together and to come together and really talk about things. Our platform, Doak, is really about not just the elements of sport in what it is in its purest form, but also we dig into a lot of the background stuff regarding sports and, some of the relationships behind the scenes. And this is like one of those that is that for us. So that's why it's important. And we're grateful to have you to join us tonight. Listen, Doak, let's just kind of start from this and let's go back. Give us a little bit of your background and where you came from and how you ultimately started and how your name came to be, just all those things like that, man. Just kind of touch on and give our listeners a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Gothenburg, right in the middle of the state. Typical Nebraska person. That's the old school days. If Nebraska was playing, it was on all the radios around the town. You're out diving in the leaves, listening to games and all that business. Doak came from my parents. They were going to name me Dirk or Doak. I guess I'm glad they went with Doak. I'm not a big fan of Dirk, but Doak Walker had won the Heisman Trophy in 1949, I think. Played both ways at SMU and was the punter. I think he's the last guy in the NFL to play both ways. But it wasn't so much they liked him as a player. That name just resonated with them. Yeah. So they gave that to me, and I grew up in a small town. I didn't know it was an unusual name until I went to college. Then I had to start repeating it. And so I wasn't very bright to know that I was the only Doak within miles, probably. So anyhow, that's where I grew up, and that's how I got my name.
Well, I think that so from Gothenburg, ended up being named after a famous person that you probably had no clue at the time. I'm assuming, Doak, that this famous football player. Did you know much about that, or is that something you learned as you got older?
Yeah, I didn't. Like I said, it didn't dawn on me that it was unique. Probably about in high school, though, when maybe you'd hear Doak Campbell Stadium or something, you'd start realizing that, you don't hear this very often. I did make a trip down to SMU when I was in Dallas one time, go to campus. I wanted to see his Heisman Trophy. And
they got a statue of him out there too.
Well, that's good, because when I went there, it looked like they had a display case they got at Ace Rent to Own and had been used, and they just stuck it on top of that, and it was in this small little entryway. So,
yeah.
Okay, so Doak, we're gonna skip over some stuff, okay? Because we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of your time.
Can we just, if we're gonna skip over stuff, can we just go to Clester? I remember this as plain as day.
Okay,
we're in the Cook Pavilion.
I knew this was gonna happen.
And we're walking down the middle of the field.
Okay.
We're probably on the east end, about the 35-yard line, something like that. And some of the old school coaches say your dauber was down, and I'm like, Clester, you're moping and just you're really upset because it just wasn't panning out as quarterback.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I had a fabled transition. I came here. A lot of people don't even realize, Doak, I came to Nebraska as a quarterback. And a lot of people think I switched because of Tommy Frazier. That wasn't the case. I'm a year ahead of Tommy. But in actuality, the reason why I switched is really my fault. I came to college and I was just wilding out. Like, you got to put time in that quarterback room. You have to watch film. You have to know every position on offense. And that was really kind of cutting into my social life. You know what I'm saying?
We know that was pretty active.
Absolutely, it was. Absolutely. But Doak, you got a chance to meet a lot of characters, right? And before we jump into the characters, how did you actually end up becoming a trainer? How did you know that was the route you were going?
Well, it wasn't until I was probably kind of steered in that way. When I left high school, I wanted to go play basketball, and I was going to be a basketball coach.
Okay.
Strick probably didn't know this, but my best
it's new information. It's new information.
But also Strick probably didn't realize my best sport was baseball. And so I had a couple opportunities to play basketball and baseball. I was going to do a combo. And long wedge, sprained an ankle. I was going to be at small college. And I was like, well, forget it. I'm just going to come to Nebraska. Matter of fact, well, not hardly anybody knows this, but I did try out for baseball at Nebraska.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to find those pictures.
There's a lot of history in that.
Well, at the end of the tryout week, I started for one of the teams. And so I'd done well enough to start at the end of the week, but anyhow, that's a whole nother story. So I finally decided this is not working out. I'm going to be a coach. So I started taking the classes. I'm looking around my classes and I'm thinking everybody's got the same degree I'm going to have. What's going to separate me? There was a guy that had moved to Gothenburg right after his senior year. So I knew him just a little bit. He came to college down here and he's in the athletic training program. And he's in some of my classes and he's just like, you need to come over to the training room. You need to come to the training room. And back then, that's how kind of informal it was. You just went over and you started hanging out. There wasn't a lot of people in athletic training at the time. So I thought, well, all right, I'll get my athletic training certificate and that'll give me a leg up. I'll get a coaching job easier. So I graduated. I've got multiple degrees and I've got my certification. And I ended up at Ralston High School for 1 year.
Yeah. I had somebody text me, Doak, and told me that you were their trainer at Ralston. I said, wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I got to hear that.
And so I was there 1 year. Todd Mosser's dad was the basketball coach. Do you guys remember the Mosser family? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Todd Mosser, he's a beaut. They're doing preseason conditioning and I'm covering football and in walks Mosser and he's holding both elbows and his stocking cap's pulled down halfway over his eyes and he's making this awful face and he'd done this condition drill. He fell and he managed to break both elbows in one conditioning drill. So if you see him or know him, you can give him a hard time. That takes talent to do that. But anyhow, I was there the 1 year as their trainer. Got to the end of that year and they wanted to keep me there, but they were, they're having to create positions, whatnot. They were doing some stuff over at the middle school. They actually came up with, we could pay you better if you were an assistant football, assistant basketball, and assistant track coach at the middle school. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my why in the road here. I'm going to have to choose. So I thought, well, I'm probably going to choose coaching. And then the guy says, the high school would kill me if I did that. I can't offer that to you. And then George Sullivan offered me a graduate assistantship back at the university. And then it just all
the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Doak. So now that you're at the University of Nebraska, there are some, the people that you had the opportunity to meet. Like there's a hierarchy when you're talking about being at that level. And so how did you find and navigate through the hierarchy of the training system? Because you happen to be one of the top ones to actually do it at one point in time. Especially you were one of our personal at the basketball team's trainers. So how did you navigate through that hierarchy?
There was Jack Nicolite, there was Jerry Weber, there was obviously Sully.
Yeah.
And he moved his way up.
Yeah. And I was strategic. There was just not very many trainers, so it's easy to navigate. Like nowadays, there's a lot of trainers. There'd be more competition. I'd never succeed. So I just had to position myself, around a few people. But no, we honestly did not have very many trainers. We were probably really understaffed. So just out of necessity, you had to be at that level, I guess. So, but no, Strick, I was out doing camps when you were being recruited, because I actually had worked 2 years prior to you getting there with basketball and football. So that's how I got the ties with basketball.
Yeah. So Doak, over the years, I didn't want to say the number, but do you want to say the number? You want to say how long you were there in Nebraska?
It was like 6, wasn't it? 6 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
So
six times 6.
So over your illustrious, could I say 30 plus years?
Well, I quit.
What's the
People
number?
ask my age, I say I quit having birthdays, so I'm staying the same age. So I'd have to be the same in the training room. Or
you dang near look the same.
Does look the same.
Sheesh.
So over these years, you dealt with football, basketball. I'm assuming volleyball.
We ended up having a lot of sports because we just had small number.
So you're taking care of all the athletes.
Yeah, and George was really big on that. He didn't care if you were assigned a sport. If an athlete walked in, you were supposed to take care of him. So you just jumped in wherever you could.
So there's a couple of things I want to ask you.
Yeah. This is going to be a question before we take a break, Doak. So yeah, just go ahead and
let me throw this out at you, Doak, and then we'll go to the break. I want you to think about over these years some of the unique people you had a chance to interact with, joke with. I want to hear a great story of a former athlete that you was just like, this dude or this girl or whoever is nuts. So I want you to think about that. And then we're going to kind of touch on your role with Coach Osborne once you found things out, how you had to report to Coach Osborne and some of the things you may have heard. You were a fly on the wall in the training room. So I'm sure people want to hear about some of these little inside stories, some of these things you heard inside the training room dealing with these athletes. So think about that. We're going to come back after break on the WTF podcast with Doak Ostergaard.
Agriculture is the economic engine of the Midwest. At Acres Equipment, we dedicate ourselves to making that engine run smoothly. We supply our farmers and ranchers with quality John Deere equipment, parts, and service. We also deliver the most advanced technology and precision ag strategies to help them farm today and for the future. Acres Equipment, solutions for every field.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the attention of the Nebraska Lottery that when people hear a radio commercial in their car for one of our lotto games, Powerball, Mega Millions, or Lucky for Life, they tend to begin daydreaming about how they'll spend the prize money if they win, instead of paying attention to the road. So please, when I tell you that Nebraska Lottery Lotto games offer big money and big fun, keep your mind on driving. Do not start thinking about all the things you could buy if you win. Things like bright red sports cars, tropical vacations, 100-inch TVs, hot tubs, SUVs, a new computer, motorboats.
Bob, snap out of it.
Oh, good heavens. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. Perhaps I should go home now.
You better let me drive.
Lotto games from the Nebraska Lottery. Top prize odds vary by game.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certification. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. Spring is here, summer is fast approaching. With weddings, vacations, and weekend getaways on your mind, do not let car issues prevent you from getting where you need to be. Car problems shouldn't be something that you put up with. Let us get you back on the road in comfort and safety. We diagnose all makes and models from Porsches to Hondas, Toyotas, and Chevrolets. We fix a variety of issues with all of them with our talented techs and our experienced staff. A1 Automotive at 11th and L, downtown Lincoln, always honest answers.
Steve's Garage Doors and Services is hiring. They are looking for a garage door installation and service technician with a clean driving record. Experience is not required as they will train for the positions. However, mechanical aptitude is required. If you want to come be a part of a small business where you're family, not just an employee, call Steve's Garage Doors and Services today to apply at 402-480-2840. That's 402-480-2840. Steve's Garage Doors and Services.
This Easter, focus on your family instead of dishes with the Venue Easter to-go meals. Prepared fresh in house by our chefs, these meals are ready to heat and eat with packages for 2 to 3 people or 6 to 8, and your choice of juicy beef tenderloin, tasty herb roasted chicken, or our famous 6-pepper crusted prime rib. All meal packages come with sides, and we have additional add-ons available to complete your feast. Order today at venuedelivered.com/Easter. That's venuedelivered.com/Easter.
Spring sports are here and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rushing to your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Back to We Talk Facts on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here are your hosts, Strick and Clester.
Yeah, we're back on WTF 8 to 9 right here. Thank you guys for tapping in and chiming in and listening in on the stream, as well as Allo Channel 951. We appreciate you and your support continuously. Doak Ostergaard, former trainer at the University of Nebraska for football, baseball, basketball, volleyball, track, hockey, soccer,
bowling,
everything. He did it all. Doak is joining us on the stream today on the Sutter Heyman on the Sutter Heyman stream line, streaming for us here on WTF. Listen, Doak, Stricky knows that me and Clester are on the top of the totem pole. Okay. Of us, and we're appreciative of the love. But now let's really get into the juicy part of things. Yes. What is it? Who is it? It doesn't matter, man or woman, or even young man or young woman. Who is the individuals to where you just roll your eyes back and just say, oh, whoa, the things that I heard from him or the things that I listened to when he was sitting on the table with me or she? Who is that? And who are a couple of those individuals?
We got to get a couple, Doak. We got to get some stories.
At least two, Doak.
Oh, well, there's too many. You know how many characters. You know how many characters came through.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Clester, just when you were on the team, the number of stories just in that era.
I know.
But if I just do a quick overview, like one of the first guys, I was a student trainer. Mike Rogier's on the team. Mike is a character. Right?
Yes.
He just walk in and entertain. He should be a stand-up comedian, is what he should have been after football.
Yeah.
And this is too long a story. There's a story about going to a camera store with him down in Miami. I mean, we left practice together with the student manager. He wanted to get a camera, and he went and did some willing and dealing with these guys that own a camera store. It's too long a story. Mike, lot of great stories. But that also at that year, you know, in the 90s, football got a lot of coverage and whatnot, but that year it was like there wasn't many teams like the top, and so Nebraska football got treated like rock stars. It was incredible for that era. Then you go to a guy you guys probably not familiar with, a guy named John Rochelle. He was a lineman. Okay. He was a lineman for Texas, and it's the same guys. You go through a week, school and stuff, maybe don't hear anything. A weekend comes around and Monday, you're like, oh, It's the same guy. It's the same crazy stories, right? This is one quick story as it goes with John Rochelle. He shows up. He's a freshman. There's no NIL deals. And weekends, it was tough to find something to eat and everything.
Oof. Yeah.
East Park. Out at East Park, one of the radio stations was doing a competition, crazy man competition or something like that. As it goes, I didn't witness this. Knowing John, I wouldn't be surprised. This has to be true. He shows up out there and he's got 2 kiddie pools, and one he puts like glue in, and the other he puts feathers in. He gets in, rolls around the glue, gets out, rolls around the feathers, gets out and sings the national anthem and wins the competition for like $1,000.
Wow.
Hey,
well, now listen,
good way to make money.
Listen, you're absolutely right, Doak, about that situation, because Terrence kills me and he throws this one out all the time. And I'm glad you probably didn't hear about this one, but I'm sure you did. Run the circle. There was a night at this bar. It's out in West O. It used to be one we used to go to. I can't remember the
Royal
name.
Grove. You're thinking
Royal Grove. Oh, that's it.
That's on Cornhusker.
Royal Grove.
John Rochelle would have been there too.
So look, they had an amateur strip night at the Royal Grove.
That was my other story. You're taking my story. That's my other one. I was going to tell about him. Go ahead.
Eastrick goes in there and sets it off, Dope, and won a pair of Jordans in that joint and $100.
You were.
I did. I got out and got. I got down to my skivvies.
They had Eric with a thong. That's sad.
Yeah, bro.
So it's ironic you mentioned that, because that was John Rochelle.
Yeah.
I'm walking by the equipment window one night after practice, and I'm like, what in the world? Rochelle's having a visor put on his helmet. He's an offensive lineman. Not many guys had visors in. I'm like, what in the world are you doing? He went to Royal Grove, got in the competition, just wearing his helmet with a visor.
See, there you go.
Harrison, listen, the next show that comes on, we need to play Cisco Thong song for my man.
Yeah, though it was a wild time, and my boy, I tried to hold that one from Clester.
That is a WTF
moment. That was a WTF
right
moment.
Now.
It sure was. Dope, real quick, was you with us when we won the Big 8 tournament down in Kansas City?
No. I think the year before when we got runner up was my last year. Does that sound right? Did you win it?
Yeah. I think we won it my sophomore year. So that would have been
2 years.
2 years later. Yeah. Yeah, because you guys won it. You guys were runner up when Scales and Rich King and all of them were there.
Number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Finish ranked 11th.
Oh yeah, almost top 10. Yeah. Anyway, in some it was 9. Taking a couple of polls.
Well, and we could spend the whole evening just talking about that year.
That crew.
That's
the pre-sewing.
That had to be a
Clip Scales, all of them. Yeah, they was wild boys.
And for Strick's benefit, I got to tell, there's another guy he's not crazy like John Rochelle, but Kenny Walker, right?
Oh,
you guys know Kenny?
Yeah, Kenny Walker. Great lineman. He's not deaf. Yeah.
Great guy and a character all in his own right. Like, I don't even think he knows he's deaf, but Kenny was a hoopster.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, so I was good at recruiting intramural teams, 3-on-3 teams, whatnot. Matter of fact, I had Jamar Johnson and Kenny on an intramural team at the same time.
That was a killer team right there. Yeah,
hell of a team.
But when they first started doing 3-on-3 tournaments, they had one out at the fairgrounds. Kenny's on the team. We got Joe Sims, who was a big D lineman also. But you needed those big bodies in those 3-on-3 tournaments, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't played a whole lot with Kenny, but he's out there at the wing guarding his guy, and he's off him several feet. And you can tell the guy he's guarding is kind of confused. He's like, really? You're just going to let me shoot this? And so he kind of hesitates. You're like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and shoot it. And Kenny's off him a ways, but Kenny goes up and blocks it. And then he gets the tip and he lands and he's straddling the 3-point line. He takes one dribble off 2 feet and
bang,
slams it. Yes.
Bang. Yeah, he had that kind of spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question.
In that same tournament later, we were playing a group of guys. I think they were Wesleyan guys before they had Dana Jensen and those guys, but they were tall. And in our rotation, I ended up guarding one of these tall guys who came baseline. I stopped him along the lane, and he's going to shoot over me. He's too tall. I'm just standing with my hands up. I feel something on the back of my head. You can't figure what it is. Kenny's man's on the other side of the lane. Kenny jumped up behind me, and the guy, just as he's releasing the ball, it's on his fingertips. I look up and I see Kenny, and he swats the ball and blocks it. He's jumping over me to do that, right? Broke the guy's hand.
Oh, dang. Yeah, he was strong as an ox. There's no question about that.
Doak, I want to talk to you about, okay, so here you are, the trainer. You have to report back to Coach Osborne, okay? Everything that's going on in the program is all going through the training room. So kind of tell me how your relationship with Coach Osborne developed. And even to this day, I know you guys still have this little back and forth going on. I know that Coach Osborne would harass you. You would harass Coach Osborne. And everybody used to just look back and just laugh at these two guys just kind of going at it. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. Their coach was special in that it didn't matter if you were the student trainer or whatnot. He made you feel involved. So that gave me somewhat of a comfort level, even though a lot of people back in those days were intimidated by him. And I kind of made up my mind. I'm like, I'm just going to treat him like I would one of you guys. Why is everybody scared of this guy? And then there was Coach Osborne had his knee scoped, and he'd come down. He'd go on and see George. George would take him back, put him in the whirlpool. And then George would go back in his office, and I'd be out in the training room, and I'm watching coaches in the whirlpool. George is in his office. George is falling asleep. Coach is still in the whirlpool. I'm like, do I go get George? Do I go get Coach? A couple times I start off, I'm like, George, Coach is done. He'd come out. And then after 2 days of that, I just thought, I will let George sleep. I'll just go get Coach. And so I just started doing his rehab like I would anybody else. Well, he hadn't really been working on his motion much. I'd been watching, what they're doing. It's like, well, and even with a simple scope, it can be pretty painful to get your knee flexion back and whatnot. So I've got him laying on the table face down. And I'm pushing, and, you're kind of waiting for some feedback. Somebody tenses up, you're pushing hard enough or not. And I'm pushing. I'm like, all right, he's doing pretty good. And he hasn't said anything. And then pretty soon he's just like, Doak, I don't care how hard you push. I'm not going to scream.
And that's how subtle he was. Yeah. I mean, I remember you're absolutely right. It is so calm and soothing when Coach Osborne would speak to you. I mean, Clester shared a story with me, and before I share this one, and then we got to take another break. But Clester shared a story with me that had me almost in tears about when they were actually at a bowl game at the Fiesta Bowl. And I literally teared up because it was so emotional that when Coach Osborne spoke, it was power, but it was still with calmness.
Yeah.
And his words had deep meaning, and it literally would move you to action. And I thought that was so beautiful. And it even moved me so much to action that I came out to practice a few times when I'm walking in the halls. I'm walking in the halls a couple times, and I'll let you answer before we go to break. I'm walking in the halls, and every time I see Coach Osborne, part of me wanted to turn the other way and duck. But he would just walk by me and say, Strick, just like you said it, Strick.
When you coming out for football?
When you coming? It would just it wouldn't be nothing else. It's just when you coming.
Yeah.
And then keep on walking. Good to see you.
Fired that man up.
It was
and
beautiful.
Came on
I came on out. I sure did.
Right.
Go ahead.
And speaking of, so a couple things here. Speaking of characters also, Clester, you remember how Tommy, Christian, Raymakers, some of those guys would interact with Coach and just would, but backing up for when I was getting to know Coach on his rehab then. believe it or not, at some point, he decides he wants to have a little wager on the Nebraska basketball game with me, right? And of course, I just got done working basketball, so I had a pretty good idea who was good. It was going to be too easy because it was going to be straight up. You didn't have to give any points or anything. It was at the tail end of the season, and anytime I'd win, he'd give me, it was $5, and he'd pay me. I felt terrible because it felt like I was taking his last dime. Oh, here you go, dope. And so we get to the end of the year, and now I'm up like $10. And I think, how am I going to get this back to him? I said, Coach, I'll bring donuts up. No, Doke, I don't eat donuts. And then I said, well, I'll bring bagels. No, don't eat bagels. I'm walking through the bookstore at the Union. Just by chance, I go by and there's a table with some books on sale. Right on the corner, there's a paperback. And the title of it is The Winner's Guide to Sports Betting. It's $10. I grab it. I get back to stadium. I open it up on the title page and I put, Coach, hope this brings you better luck, Doke. Right?
That's dope.
That's classic.
Yeah.
Well, so then it gets even better. Dave Finn is going around taking pictures for a recruiting brochure, and they're using film before the digital stuff, right? Takes some pictures. Well, he's got some film left. He's like, Coach, you need to just use up the rest of this film. Sit on the edge of your desk, act natural, blah, blah, blah. He sits down, and he happened to pick up that book, and he opened it to the title page. Now, Finn is going through looking at the negatives, the itty-bitty negatives, and he happens to see this, and he's like, hey, he wants to use this because it looked good. But he was able to see, like, Doke, there's a book that you signed up there, but it's got this title. I can't use that. It's betting. But Finn gave me a copy. I got it framed, and I got the $5.
Oh, that's nice. That's so amazing. Well, once again, second segment here with Doke Ostergaard, former trainer at the University of Nebraska and inventor. We're going to get into that when we get back. We'll talk about some of the things that he had the opportunity to invent. And we'll join him in that conversation when we come back right here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Tailored Landscapes is actively preparing for spring. Things like getting new tree orders, getting equipment ready, and training staff to serve you the best we can. If you haven't already planned, now is the perfect time to figure out a maintenance plan for your yard. We're on the brink of spring cleanups for all of our existing customers and have limited spots left. We trim trees and shrubs when needed and only mulch proper amounts. Give us a call today at 402-432-2572 to set up a meeting with one of our designers and get ready for Tailored Life's grand opening in Bennett.
You know that feeling after a good, hearty meal? Worries of the world just slip away. Time slows down. Nothing but good times and good company. That's what you get with Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul. Mary Ellen's does food right, with a menu that includes smoked wings, pulled pork, brisket, catfish. And don't sleep on their sides, shrimp and grits, collard greens, baked beans. It's food that makes your heart happy. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul, just east of 27th and Pineland. Let them fix you a plate.
Hey there.
Hi, honey.
Uh-oh.
Remember we told Jamie and Mike about Liberty First Credit Union, how great their checking account and car loans are, the amazing service we get, and how we love being members?
Yeah.
Well, they took our advice. Jamie said how easy it was to move all their accounts and become members. Now they say they're banking with purpose at Liberty First Credit Union.
Learn more about being a member at libertyfirstcu.com. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose. Member NCUA.
There's a lot of realtors in Lincoln, but don't get overwhelmed by all the names. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realtor Group at Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador Real Estate is your go-to option when buying or selling residential and commercial property. Ben's team offers unbeatable customer service and promises to make the buying and selling process as stress-free as possible. Call Ben today at 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Ambassador Real Estate. No pressure, just professionalism. Problem gambling affects more than the gambler. It affects spouses, children, extended family members, and friends. If you are a loved one who's struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 476-2300.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful. I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman. Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back. Sure. Sauter Heyman Jewelers, Lincoln and Grand Island. SauterHeyman.com.
Hi, it's Charlie Stone again, and with me on the line, Andy Goodyear, General Manager of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, I know how proud you and everyone at the dealership are to earn the prestigious Honda President's Award year after year, 17 times. Tell our listeners what it means to you and your customers.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, all of us are extremely proud to have earned this award, and I want all of our customers to know it's not just earned by one person's effort. It's the entire dealership. Sales, parts, and our amazing service department.
17 times. Wow. How does that compare to other Honda dealers?
This award is only given to the most elite dealerships that demonstrate excellence. We really do strive to go above and beyond for the ultimate customer experience before and after the sale, Charlie.
That's why for 2022, Honda of Lincoln is once again Nebraska's #1 volume Honda dealer. Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business, 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Our sales, precision ag, parts, and service teams are ready to serve you this planning season. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Back to We Talk Facts on 93.7 The Ticket and the TicketFM.com. Here are your hosts, Strickland Clester.
Welcome back to WTF Podcast. Again, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Channel 951, Allo. What else? Did I miss it?
You got it.
Did I get it all?
You
Okay.
got it all. 93.7 The Ticket, the TicketFM.com.
WTF.
You can get it, baby.
Podcast.
Yeah.
You can get it. Anyway, Doug, listen, we got 10 minutes left, okay? And we got to make this sweet. We talked about you being an inventor, okay? You were a tinkerer. There were some things, there's been some magnificent things over the years that you've had your hand in that have gone nationwide. We want you to give me some crisp answers so I can get as much of this in as possible. Tell us about how it started and some of the cool things you've invented over your illustrious career. The stroker. Talk about the stroker. That's number one.
that was the first one, and
Yes.
most everything I've done is because I'm sitting there, and most people are in the grind and they're just saying, "Oh, we just keep repeat, just get the work done." And I'm sitting there like, "There's got to be a better way of doing this," and that's what drove a lot of the products I've come up with. Yeah. So stroker was the first thing. I was fresh out of college. I was helping a girl back home. She had some inflammation in her tibialis posterior tendon. It was hard to exercise that and get her, we spent a lot of time in the whirlpool, then trying to find exercises, and we put her back in the whirlpool. I'm like, why won't we just do that in the whirlpool? And so that's how the stroker came about. And then I tried to manufacture and market that all myself. This is before internet and everything. So when I had free time, I had pamphlets. I'd send those out. And a lot of the the bigger places were buying them. It's just I had no idea what I was doing business wise. But University of Florida, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Washington, the Jets. Heck, I was a part of that time. I was a graduate assistant, so I was working about 60 hours a week in the training room, going to night class 2 nights a week, and then of course had competitions on the weekend. And in between there, I would have to assemble and ship off one of these. And one night I came home and the Jets had ordered one, and there's a voicemail. We need another one. Can you ship it out tomorrow? And so it was kind of cool, but I just was not set up. I was on a steep learning curve. And then the next thing was this, which was eventually became the Sully. It was made of neoprene. We're in Nebraska. Where do you find neoprene, except for wetsuits? And that has its own story. I was not going down the same path. So I just would make some. I made for our players. Rob Zadeket, how big Rob is. Yeah. And he had a shoulder issue, and we were getting ready to go to Tokyo and all that business. And he's like, the only thing I'm going to wear is that Dill Doak Scott. I didn't know Rob knew I had something, but I'm like, where am I going to find something big enough for him? That led into conversations to a company that actually wanted to sell it, and it became the best-selling shoulder device on the market. So that's where all the ideas have come. And more recent years, I've got kind of built a business around some of my products. So it's a blessing and a curse, because as soon as my mind starts thinking on it, then I can't stop until I have a solution. Yeah. And it used to keep me awake at night. Then it got to where I was so used to it, I had to think about it before I could go to sleep. And so
the number one thing, Doak, I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to get this in here. Something that you played a huge part in.
And people will be surprised. The people that's listening, you're going to be surprised.
I got to say this. I got to say this. As all you athletes, everybody who walk downtown into the Haymarket, you see this huge building. It's called Huddle. Okay. Mm-hmm. Can you tell the people about your mind and how this whole Huddle thing came to fruition? And let me explain Huddle. It's a way for athletes to get their film out, their highlight film out to coaches all across the world, all across the nation.
Every dang high school dang near uses it.
Every high school uses
so, it. Yeah, it's amazing.
So my involvement there is same thing. I'm looking at what we're doing, and at that, for that particular piece, Clester, recall, like on a football trip on a Friday, you knew the drill, right? Whether we're away or home, we're going to do a walkthrough. We're going to go have dinner. We're going to go to a movie. After the movie, then you're going to have a test, right? You're going to take a written test. You have to turn that into your coaches the next day. And in between time, you're going to play PlayStation or whatever it was, whatever you guys were, or the craze was at the time, but you're on those games. And so I'm sitting there thinking, well, why in the world, wouldn't we just put our offense, our defense, our roster in there, build a program thing so our coaches could put in the opponent's defense in their roster. You guys could have more of a three-dimensional experience in your test, because it wouldn't just be a written test. You could go on, all right, here's a read the quarterback's making. You make the first read, well, then you can go to the next one, and you can get feedback right away instead of getting your test back on the bus on the way to the stadium and not really doing any good, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm just saying, man, if we can do that, we could do a study lab where you could just go in and have sensors in the floor and kind of like virtual reality. There's just all these things you could do if you could do that, right?
He was way ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time.
Well, so at that time, there was a gentleman, Jeff Rakes is his name. He's from Ashland, Nebraska, and he just happened to be on campus meeting. I think he might have even been at the lead doing a presentation or something, and he was a big shot at Microsoft. So I'm putting the pieces together like, well, that guy would want to help us do a project like this. And I reached out to him, and we corresponded a couple times, and he was a VP for business in Microsoft at the time. So he says, my position, I can't really help at this point. So I was like, all right, it's going to fall by the wayside because this is going to be a big undertaking. So a few years go by, and now Callahan is coaching. I'm walking up the tunnel back towards the training room. I meet a group of people. Clary Kastner, who's the director of the foundation at the time, was leading the group. And then there was another gentleman there, and then several women. And Clary says hi. I say hi. And then I walk past, and then the other gentleman in the group says, Doak Ostergaard. And I turn back around, and I'm like, I'm scrambling. I'm about 5 feet away, and I'm trying to think, who is this? Who is this? I walk back, shake his hand. He says, I'm Jeff Rakes. I'm like, oh, okay. And we chatted, and he told the group what we had communicated about. And I said, yeah, nowadays the technology, you can practically do all that. And he said, well, it must have been a good idea. I go back to the training room, I get to thinking about it again. And I'm thinking, it still doesn't do exactly what I want. I reach back out to Jeff. We start communicating. He's in a position where he can help more. And he said, at the time, it was called the J.D. Edwards Honors Program on campus. It takes 120 of the brightest business computer minds in there. He said, there's some students over there that might be interested in doing something. Would you mind going over there? I was like, no, season's over. I'll go over there. So we get back from the bowl game. So it's like middle of January. I go over. There's a group, about 20 some people, some instructors, the director of the Rakes program, some students, some grad students. And I go through, and basically all we're doing is connecting needs in the athletic world that these folks would not have any understanding about, but they've got technology that we could use. And so I'm going through and asking if we could do something like that. And, it goes back and forth. The three guys that are interested, David Graff, Brian Kaiser, and John Wirtz. They form what they call Agile Sports. The thing, whenever you're developing a product, you start off with what you can do, and that's where we're at. And then it evolves. And so, the first generation, second generation are not the same. And you end up in a different place from where I'm at. And their company has evolved a lot differently now from what I originally proposed. But they form Agile Sport. They started doing that. And then that eventually became Huddle. So I think that's what you're after, Clester. How, would that have happened without the meeting would be the question, right? So
I know there's a multitude of parts to that story. We won't get into all that. We'll save it for the movie. There is a movie coming. I know it is. But I know that we want to thank you, Doak, for coming on, man. It was a pleasure that you took some time out to spend with us. We might have to do a part 2, Strick, because it's just too much stuff we left off.
It is definitely a lot of stuff, Doak, and we're grateful because you left an imprint, not just at the training table, but you left an imprint in the program, and so we're grateful for your contributions to the University of Nebraska and also to us today on WTF. We Talk Facts.
Well, and I think that's what